After the death of Dryden Voss, the public face of the Crimson Dawn crime syndicate, its true leader in the shadows, Darth Maul, summoned Kira to Dathomir so that they could work more closely together, since she was the highest ranking member of the syndicate remaining. Unfortunately, this would mark the last time she would ever see her former love Han Solo, and that is the last we know of her in canon. That is, until now. In the process of taking the carbonite frozen Han Solo from Cloud City back to Jabba the Hutt, Solo's body was stolen from Boba Fett by a mysterious figure, sparking a war of the bounty hunters. Things get so heated that even Kira gets involved, so let's find out how she fits in. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed to be notified as soon as I release more videos on every issue of this comic as they release. So the story begins inside of the ship of the mysterious bounty hunter who stole Han Solo from the grip of Boba Fett. On board, two shadowy figures begin talking amongst each other, wondering if it's painful to be frozen inside of the carbonite. One of them makes the assumption that based on Han Solo's face at the moment he was frozen, it's pretty clear that he was in extraordinary pain. Following this, we cut all the way to a deep space port in the mid-rim, where a menacing crime lady greets the arrival of the bounty hunters on board the Vermilion. She welcomes the two bounty hunters named Margo and Trinia out onto the deck, and asks about the condition of Solo. Now, very awesomely, Margo is actually the lady who welcomed Han, Chewie and Becca onto Dryden Voss's yacht in Solo: A Star Wars Story. Awesome little connection to the movie there, and tells you the direction this story is headed. Margo then explains to her boss that they took Solo from a back alley doctor on Nar Shaddaa and managed to stabilize him in the carbonite holder after having a few issues. The crime lady then asks Margo if Han is conscious inside of the carbonite, to which she quickly replies, "I hope not. What the hell that would be?" The crime lady, however, responds saying it wouldn't be so bad if he was living in the right dream or memory. Margo then tells her boss that there is still one more problem. They stole Han from the doctor, but the doctor was working for someone else, and that someone else is the notoriously effective bounty hunter Boba Fett. The crime boss, however, already knows this and admires his skill, but understands that he's only one man, before gesturing broadly and saying, "Where all of this?" challenging Boba to come and take Han back as if he was right in front of her. Back on Nar Shaddaa, inside of a local cantina, Boba enters a deep rage, exclaiming that somebody's going to die very soon. The bartender asks him, "What makes that different from every other day, Fett? Is this a special someone?" To which Boba tells him, "They stole from me." Boba tells the bartender that he went to a lot of trouble for this bounty and had to work with a very complicated client. The bartender then tells Boba Fett that if this other bounty hunter knew it was his, then they're either tough as hell or incredibly stupid for even daring to steal from the legendary Boba Fett. At the table near Boba, two scruffy young bounty hunters are looking for their next gig when they see Boba Fett on the listings. They look towards the bar and see the man standing right there, absolutely astounded at their luck. They do note that usually big jobs like this would be handled in private, but for some reason this one was open to every single bounty hunter in the galaxy. Anyone who wanted to was welcome to try their hand at capturing or killing Boba Fett. As Boba is continuing his story about how Han was stolen from him, he notices a reflection in his glass of the young bounty hunter behind him, priming his blaster. Without a single moment of hesitation, Boba turns around and blasts the young hunter with a scorching bolt right to the heart. The stern Boba is pretty unfazed by this and chalks it up to just being for money, reputation or revenge, and notes that it always ends the same way for those who try to kill Boba Fett. Following this, Fett returns to his ship, the Slave One, and immediately sends a message to Bib Fortuna telling him that the delivery of Han Solo will still go ahead, but will need to be delayed. Once he gets closer to his ship, however, he notices a strange beeping before a massive yellow fireball bursts from the front of his ship, sending him flying backwards. Immediately after getting up, Boba is greeted by fellow bounty hunter Zuckuss, who tells Boba that he should stay down if he wants to survive the next few minutes. As you can tell by now, all of the big names in the bounty hunting game are slowly converging, and it's definitely not going to end well for some of them. Boba then calls Zuckuss out for pulling a cheap trick, but Zuckuss tells him, "We're bounty hunters, Fett. We live in the low." He then tells Boba to stand so that he can ask some questions, but Boba thinks fast and immediately fires his back rocket at Zuckuss, just narrowly missing him. Fett then flies into the air with his jetpack and taunts his fellow bounty hunter, telling him that he should have seen that coming, but surprisingly he actually did. Zuckuss then points behind him, showing that 4-LOM, another of the bounty hunters from The Empire Strikes Back, has arrived on scene. As you can see from the panel, it is pronounced 4-LOM, but 4-LOM sounds much better. 4-LOM then introduces himself, much to the distaste of Boba, who's sad that there's never just one bug. The two bounty hunters only want to know one thing: where is Han Solo? They searched Slave One but found nothing, and warn Fett that if he doesn't start talking soon, he won't make it much further. They then tell Boba that they went inside of his ship to search for Han, which disgusts him even further, because that vessel of course belonged to his father, leading him to activate the ship's blaster and fire on 4-LOM and Zuckuss, leaving Zuckuss hanging off the edge of the platform on the verge of falling to his death. Zuckuss then pleads with Boba not to let him die and begins predicting the future, telling Boba that his future is bathed in a sea of red. Boba isn't interested in this fortune telling from Zuckuss, however, and instead kicks him off the platform. He then moves over to 4-LOM, drawing his blade and demanding to know what is going on. 4-LOM immediately spills that Boba is actually the target, which confuses him greatly. Fett then plugs the droid's head into his computer systems, demanding to know who sent him and how he knew that Boba Fett had Solo. After scouring through his memory banks, Boba makes a shocking discovery. The computer reads out, "Bounty placed on Boba Fett, open contract, available to any hunter," displaying details. This leaves Boba absolutely shocked, and he demands to know who set this bounty on him. 4-LOM immediately spills the name of the client, sending Boba straight to Tatooine. After arriving at Jabba's palace, 4-LOM tries to convince Boba to keep him around, as he can be very useful, but instead his head is thrown into the dunes below without a care in the world. Boba is not a happy man right now. As he reaches the gates of the palace, he is greeted by Bib Fortuna, who hopes there will be no hostilities in this conversation. Bib tells Boba that he did receive the message about being late for the delivery with Han Solo, and tells him that he is one of Jabba's most favoured bounty hunters because he can always be relied on to get the job done. Boba, however, is still angry. Bib begs to resolve whatever problem Boba has without violence, but Boba is not going to allow that to happen. The bounty hunter immediately opens fire on Bib's Gamorrean guards, showing that he means business, leading Bib to ragefully demand that Boba Fett be fed to Jabba's Rancor or the Sarlacc nearby. After hearing this, Boba comes right out and accuses Jabba of being the one who put the bounty on his head, which is of course true. Bib immediately confirms this and tells Boba that the bounty was only placed on his head because he was taking too long to bring Captain Solo back to the palace, and word was quickly spreading that Boba had sold Han Solo. Boba quickly responds to this, telling Bib that he didn't sell Solo, but rather another bounty hunter stole him. Unfortunately for him, however, Jabba isn't in town right now to clear this up. The Hutt crime lord happens to be in hyperspace aboard the Shard Roo war barge, where he is discussing the re-emergence of a terrifying group to the crime game. The Hutts are debating whether or not this group actually came back from the ashes, or if they're just a pretender group, but Jabba does not care. He knows that they now have Solo in their possession, and that's enough evidence for him. As you can probably guess, this group is Crimson Dawn. Mika the Hutt then notes that Crimson Dawn haven't made any move for years, and their re-emergence now could destabilize the whole criminal underworld. Following this, the Hutts discuss the invitation that was sent out at the beginning of the story by Crimson Dawn, bringing all of the criminal organizations together. They mention that Chancellor So is a woman that they can trust, but those cats of hers scare them. Chancellor Lina So was the Chancellor of the Republic during the High Republic era, and she had 2 massive Targons, which are large cat-like creatures. Jabba then notes to the rest of the Hutts that the man who formerly ran Crimson Dawn would not be able to stay hidden this long, speculating that he is dead. This is of course Maul, who was killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine, meaning Jabba is correct. Back at Jabba's palace, Bib informs Boba about the invitation that Crimson Dawn sent out and wants to see it for himself. Viewing the hologram, Boba sees the mysterious crime lady with Han Solo behind her, inviting Jabba to witness the return of Crimson Dawn on the planet Jakara. I'm sure by now you have a pretty good picture of who this is. After realizing that Crimson Dawn are now back from the ashes and that they are the ones who stole from him, Boba immediately knows that he's going to fly to Jakara and kill someone, just like he said in the cantina. Now he knows who he's going to kill. Back on Jakara, Margo questions the crime lady as to why this Han Solo is so important. She is told that Crimson Dawn needed to display someone who would get the attention of the entire galaxy, and that someone was Han Solo. The crime lady tells Margo that somehow this smuggler with a terrible reputation is directly connected to almost every powerful faction in the galaxy, the Rebel Alliance, the Empire, and everyone caught in between. And now that the invitation has gone out to witness the return of Crimson Dawn, Dr. Aphra, Dengar, and many more very important figures have caught on and are eager to witness this momentous occasion. And to end the story, the crime lady softly says, "Han always wanted to save me," before lowering her hood and saying, now he'll get his chance, revealing that she is Qi'ra, who is now the leader of Crimson Dawn. So make sure you're subscribed for the next issue of this comic, where the War of the Bounty Hunters will continue, this time with much bigger stakes. How awesome is it that Qi'ra and the Crimson Dawn are back? Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.